Welcome to another installment of Turn Up the AC Hot Takes with Reason on a solo edition. Now we're going to jump right into this one. It's here. The fight is finally upon us. The GOAT year of boxing continues. We've been getting all the big fights that we wanted to see so far this year. And with this one, we got another one. Finally, it's fight week, fight day. The undefeated welterweight champions are putting all on the line. We'll have our first undisputed welterweight champion in the 4-bout era. Unified champion Errol Spence Jr. comes into this fight with a record of 27-0 with 22 knockouts, and the current holder of the IBF, WBC, and WBA welterweight titles. Terence Crawford, the current WBO welterweight champ, comes into this fight with a record of 39-0 and 30 knockouts. The weigh-ins are complete. Both fighters made weight in a private weigh-in. They had their weigh-in for the public for show a couple hours later. Spence came in at the limit of 147. Terence Crawford weighed in at 146.8. This fight has been a fight a few years in the making now. And by the end of last year, it really didn't look like we would probably get the fight, because both sides left the table bitter. Crawford kind of in bad faith, was negotiating two fights at one time. He ended up fighting David Avanesian. I mean, he would have not faced a lot of hate, a lot of criticism, if he would have been straight up and said, look, I want to tune up before Spence, because that's what it looked like. Spence stood firm on his stance of not taking any tune-ups or fighting anybody else but Crawford, because for months there was rumors circulating that Keith Thurman was a potential fight for Spence at 154, and it didn't happen. This is the perfect example of, if the fighters really want the fight to happen, they can make it happen, because they got on the phone and talked to each other personally and worked out whatever details they needed to work out. The fight is done, and I feel like we're on the verge, we're on the brink of watching something legendary tonight. Let's talk about, the fighters in general. Bud stopped every single opponent that he's had at welterweight, but Spence has done the heavier lifting at welterweight when you compare the resumes. If you haven't, go and check out the video on my channel where we break down the resumes in the welterweight division, and we stack up the resumes head to head, and we tell you who has really done the heavier lifting and has the better resume at welterweight. The promotion of this fight has been great, from their press conferences to the all-access episodes put together by Showtime, with both their episodes gaining over 1 million views. All their many interviews they've been doing all over the place, from the Pivot podcast to the $1 million worth of game. Like they've been everywhere. They've been really promoting this fight well. Both guys seem very, very ready. They both seem like they're in great shape. This fight, in my opinion, is going to live up to the hype. I believe it has a chance to not only be the fight of the year, potentially, but an all-time classic. The styles of both guys, I think, are perfect for each other for a great fight. Spence, the unified champ, got his belts one by one, taking the IBF strap from Kell Brook in the UK, the WBC strap from Sean Porter, in a very close and highly entertaining bout. And lastly, he got the WBA strap from Yordenis Ugas back in April of 2022. Crawford got his WBO strap in his first fight at welterweight, stopping Jeff Horn in round 9. If you're a true fan of the sport of boxing, you got to purchase the event. I already did. I have no problem buying and supporting fights, as long as they're the best fighting the best, because that's what we really want to see as fans of the sport of boxing. And Spence and Crawford have been the two best in the welterweight division for some time now, and it's about time we get some closure at who was the best of this era and the best in the division. Potentially we could get a rematch, because both fighters have worked rematch clauses in the negotiations. They just have to activate the rematch 30 days after the fight takes place, within 30 days. Now, who do I think is going to win? Well, I believe Crawford has to get off to a fast start early. Neither guy is known for getting off to fast starts. Spence tends to get stronger as the fight goes on. So I think Crawford has to jump on him early in the first 3-4 rounds and rack up some points. Crawford has the ability to counter Spence when Spence is throwing his jab, because Crawford, to me, has the faster hands. But Spence is the more technical of the fighter, I think, of the fighters. He has a strong jab, arguably the best jab in boxing, for sure the best jab in the division. But Crawford has the speed and the awkwardness to counter when Spence is throwing those jabs and potentially hit him with something he's not seeing coming, which could lead to maybe Spence getting hurt. And if Crawford is able to hurt Spence, there's a good chance that Crawford could end the fight, because there ain't too many people in the sport of boxing that are as great of a finisher as Terence Crawford is when he gets somebody hurt. Now, with that being said, I can also see Spence working the body, throwing hard combinations to Crawford throughout the fight, and potentially hurting him. If Spence, I think it's either fighter hurts the other, it could be over for that fighter who gets hurt. As the fight the longer the fight goes, I think it favors Spence. I think Crawford has to knock out Spence to really be ready for a second fight, if there is a second fight. Because if the fight goes a distance, I think Crawford's going to take some damage. And let's keep it real, nobody's been the same after they fought Spence. Danny Garcia took a long layoff. Ugas has a broken eye. He hasn't fought since. Sean Porter, within 2 fights, was retiring. Mikey Garcia, within 2 fights, retired. Lamont Peterson retired. So people who go 12 rounds with Spence, they're really not the same after. So we have to see if that holds true with Crawford, or if Crawford is just different and he's able to not only go 12 rounds, but win a decision and come back for stronger in his second fight if that were to take place. So my pick for tonight's fight, I got Errol Spence Jr. winning the fight. I'm going to lean towards unanimous decision, but I would not be surprised if there's a late stoppage in rounds 11 or 12. But I got Errol Spence Jr. taking this fight and becoming the first undisputed welterweight champion in the 4-belt era. Go ahead and comment, hate, debate, whatever you want to do. We appreciate it all. Turn up the AC Hot Takes, and we're out.